This short video is an overview of Vet Biz Matches for any veteran-owned or service-disabled veteran-owned small business supplier. So what is Vet Biz Matches and why do we need it? There's a challenge out there for any small business, but particularly veteran-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, to find new and diversified revenue streams. Much of the emphasis has been placed on obtaining contracts with the government, but quite frankly, anything that the government purchases, corporate America purchases as well, as do higher education institutions. So we want you to be able to diversify your business streams and your contracting opportunities with all different types of organizations. But it can be a real challenge. You don't know who the procurement officers are, you don't know where the opportunities are, you don't know what the opportunities are. So Vet Biz Matches exists to improve those contracting opportunities and help you diversify your revenue streams. For the buyers, there's a real challenge for them as well. They want to do business with diversified small business owners, and that includes women-owned, minority-owned, and veteran-owned small businesses. But they really have no idea how to find those veteran-owned companies and to vet them and qualify them to see if they're able to do the type of work that their organization needs. So Vet Biz Matches is an innovative high-tech meets high-touch approach to connecting both buyers and suppliers through technology and then face-to-face matchmaking events across the nation. Now, Vet Biz Matches is a commercial enterprise, so you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, is this going to cost me something to be a supplier in this system? If you're a veteran-owned or service-disabled veteran-owned small business, there is no cost for you to register in this system or to be matched to a buyer in this system. We will be having several events across the U.S. every year, and if this event that you have been matched in and that you want to meet the buyer in is in a different city than you're located, then of course you may incur some travel costs to get to that event. But that's your decision to make on whether you will be willing to participate in those cities. Other than that, there is no cost for you to participate in these events. The second most popular question we get about Vet Biz Matches is, well, who's deciding whether my company is qualified to do business? Well, there's a trick there, because each buyer, whether they're corporate, government, college, university, will be determining their own qualification criteria. And that criteria can include anything from minimum revenue to your company size to whether or not you have license or certifications. And for some of them, whether you're a service-disabled veteran-owned small business versus a veteran-owned small business. So when you register in the system, and there's a separate video that you can watch that will show you exactly how to register and how to indicate and answer those types of questions, it's really important that you answer all of those questions, because that is the screening criteria that these companies will be using to filter and vet which companies they're going to extend an invitation to. So it's not enough that you sell products or services in the NAICS codes that those organizations purchase, but that you actually meet the rest of their criteria. For example, there are a lot of very large corporations out there, Fortune 500 type corporations, where as a small business, if you don't have at least $1 million in revenue as a small business, then you're considered too great of a risk for them to do business with directly. So they are going to go with much larger companies that still meet the small business criteria. However, that doesn't mean that you can't do business indirectly with that large corporation. Then you may potentially be matched to some of the first-tier suppliers or prime suppliers to those organizations who may have a lower threshold in terms of the annual revenue or other size requirements. The third most popular question is, well, what events should I attend? As mentioned in the beginning, we're going to do a number of different events across the U.S. every year. Our goal is to do 9 events total every single year, but we're just getting started, so there may be fewer than 9 events in this first year. But each event is NAICS code specific. So the NAICS code is the classification of the product or service which you offer, and each city will indicate which NAICS codes are the focus for that particular city. So only register for events that actually include the NAICS codes for the products or services that you offer. So for example, if you are offering products and services within the NAICS 21 classification, that would be mining, quarrying, oil and gas extraction. If you sell products and services in those areas, there's only going to be a total of 3 cities where that particular NAICS code will be a focus. And again, this is if we're doing all 9 cities in 1 year. Then those cities will be Dallas, Denver, and Houston. And that makes sense. There's a lot of oil and gas companies in those 3 areas. But let's say you're in construction, which is NAICS code 23. Well, construction is so popular, and there is a need for that in so many different areas, that that would be the focus in all 9 of the cities. So you can decide, are you going to attend one of those cities or all 9 of those cities in order to maximize the matchmaking opportunities you have nationwide. Our goal ultimately is to have 9 events a year in different cities. The 9 cities that you see listed here are always going to be on our target list, but the dates and locations, exact locations of those events, will vary. 2014 is our first year, so we may not be able to get to all 9 events this year. While we build up enough attention and enough participation in our events, we may only get to 3 or 4 events in this first year, but ultimately our goal is to do 9. But again, the most important thing to remember is that each event is having specific NAICS codes associated with it. So don't necessarily look for the one that's closest to where you live. If you're in Texas, don't limit yourself to Dallas and Houston. There may be greater opportunities for you in other cities, depending on what products or services you offer. Another common question we get is, well, how many buyers can I realistically meet with at one event? Well, there will be enough time slots to where the maximum number of buyers that you can meet at any one event is 14. Each one of our appointments is scheduled for 30 minutes on the half hour, of which 20 minutes of that appointment is actual face-to-face time with the buyer that has extended an invitation to meet you. The remaining 10 minutes will be for you, the supplier, to get from one buyer to the next buyer's location. So again, the maximum number is 14 at any one particular event. If you find yourself being extended a number of invitations and your schedule is filling up very quickly, you may want to do one of 2 things. First, you can decide, well, I'm going to register a second person from my company, have them create their own profile in the Vet Biz Matches database, and then that person can meet up to 14 people as well. And then you can kind of split up and decide, who's going to meet with which buyer. Or alternatively, if you don't have a second person that you can send to these events, then you may decide that you want to attend additional cities. So that way you have additional opportunities to be able to accept appointments from those buyers. Probably one of the most important things that you need to know about attending any business matchmaking event is that being matched to a company does not mean that you're going to be invited to meet face-to-face with a particular buyer. You may sell the exact products and services that a company buys, but again, if you haven't met their additional criteria in terms of size, revenue, SD/VOSB status, or whatever their other criteria happens to be, you may not be extended an appointment to meet face-to-face. Until you get that first appointment to meet face-to-face at a particular event, please do not make travel arrangements. It's not hedging your bets. We will be educating our buyers to extend appointments, preferably at least 3 weeks in advance of the event, so that way you will have ample time to make travel arrangements if in fact you do need to travel to attend these events. But we want to make sure that you are not unnecessarily making travel arrangements, hoping that you're going to get someone to extend you an invitation at some point. We are not able to accept walk-ups or any wait lists at these events. So if you have not received an invitation to meet, certainly at least a week before the event, it is safe to assume that they are not going to be extending you an invitation for that particular city. You may decide, we'll register for a different city and see if there are a different group of buyers that maybe you meet their criteria better than perhaps this one city that you tried. And let's say you do get an invitation to meet. You need to remember that being invited to meet with a buyer face-to-face does not mean you're going to walk out of that appointment with a contract in hand. That just means that you meet enough of their criteria that they're interested to get to know you a little bit better. So you need to bring your A game to this meeting. You need to do the research. Once they have indicated they have extended you an appointment, and if you have accepted that appointment, you will know who the buyer is. You will know who the company is, and you can then do your research to make sure that you have the very best preparation possible for when you have that face-to-face meeting. Once you get to that meeting, you're going to be spending 20 minutes personal time with that particular buyer. If you want to show them something on your computer, if you want to give them a demonstration of the product, you will have ample opportunities to do that at the event. You will still, though, have to do the normal follow-up that anyone would have to do if they were making a business pitch to a brand new potential customer. So whatever the buyer indicates that you need to do next in order to move you along in the potential procurement pipeline, then that's on you. You're going to have to do those steps. So for example, each individual company may have its own corporate supplier database, and they may ask you to register in that database. And typically those registration processes are a lot more involved than what we've asked you to do here in Vet Biz Matches. You may have to submit tax returns. You may have to submit copies of your W-9s. You may have to complete EFT paperwork so that they can send you money electronically. So you still need to take all of those steps if that's what they ask you to do after the meeting. That improves and increases your opportunities to actually be able to do business with those companies. I hope by now we've answered all of your main questions about Vet Biz Matches, what it is, what it does, how it can potentially help you obtain new diversified revenue streams from folks outside of the government. So what are your next steps? Well, there's 2 additional videos that you can watch. The first video is how to actually register your profile in the Vet Biz Matches database. It's a very simple process. It should take you less than 10 minutes to add all of your information in there. And then the second video you need to watch is then how do you add matchmaking events to your Vet Biz Matches profile. Registering in this system is not the same thing as then indicating what cities you would be willing to be matched in. So that is 2 steps in the process. So watch both of those videos. Each one's less than 12 minutes, and then go ahead and register in the database. So don't wait. Go ahead and register today at vetbizmatches.mybusinessmatches.com. Remember, it's free if you're a veteran-owned or service-disabled veteran-owned company, and it's a very simple process to register. It should take you less than 10 minutes to create a profile and add that first city that you would be interested in being matched in. So go ahead, don't hesitate, register today.